This is Brian Rizzo, CEO of ICE Cable Systems. We're on set here in Los Angeles, and today we're talking about myths of wiring cable and what some of the biggest, most common myths are out there. Today's myth is on the idea of the big guys being the way to go when it comes to purchasing wiring cable from vendors. And what we're getting at here is there's a pervasive thought in the industry that when you're buying wiring cable, we see this more in commercial than in residential, but for sure we see it in both, that you buy from an established brand name, a big company who's been around for a long time, who has a reputation for making quality products, and there's a certain safety in that, and there's a certain comfort in that. And geez, if you're not sure what to use or whether or not it makes spec or not, just pay whatever they charge for the big guy brand names and play it safe. You would think on one hand that playing it safe in that regard would be the way to go, but it really isn't. The reality is what a lot of these companies are doing is they're making quality products, but they're charging absolutely exorbitant prices for it. That's one of the big keys to this is they know that with a brand name like what they have, they can essentially charge almost whatever they want for the cables, and some of the engineers will spec it in regardless just because it's of a certain brand name. Well, the problem is this. From a specification perspective, any quality wiring cable company who really understands the engineering of these products can make the products to the proper spec, especially when you're talking about common products, speaker cable, category cable, LAN cable, things of that nature. Frankly, most companies know how to make it to the proper spec, make sure it performs the way it's supposed to, make sure it hits on all the safety ratings, and it's frankly not that difficult to do. At ICE, we actually do all that stuff, and we're extremely diligent about making sure that our cable meets all the relevant standards and specifications. Yet, from a pricing perspective, we are significantly less expensive than some of these, common big guys are out there. So, one of the keys is to find a company like ICE Cable Systems where you can get the cable for much less expensive than if you work with the big guys and feel just as safe, just as comfortable, and just as confident that the product meets spec and is going to perform the way it's supposed to from both, again, a performance and safety perspective. That's the middle ground. That's the niche that you want to get to in terms of buying this stuff for dealers. Now, for consumers out there, where this hurts you is if your installer is spending way too much on his wiring cable in an effort to play it safe, all those costs are getting passed on. So if you're seeing the pre-wire line item in your bid come in at an extremely high number, you know to start asking questions. Hey, what cable are you using? Is this the best stuff out there? It's almost like a contractor who's using the best of everything, passing the costs on to the consumer. At some point, the consumer needs to look at this and say, hey, wait a second. Some of these numbers look really, really high. Are you sure this is the right set of materials for this job? I think consumers will need to question this stuff as well when they see exorbitantly high prices being passed on in this area. Dealers can solve this problem by working with companies like ICE who are offering properly spec'd products at aggressive pricing. The last part of this that we think is really key is the big guy companies have one more inherent problem in them. That is that they're no longer, that they may used to have been years ago, but they're no longer specialized wiring cable companies. Most of them have either bought other companies or acquired so many different products in an effort to be a one-stop shop that one of them, as an example, and this is actually one of the smaller ones, is currently selling over 7,000 SKUs. Most of them, they just flat out can't support it. They don't have the staff, the knowledge, and the wherewithal to be spread that thin on that many product groups. Well, we're not that company. We don't really think that dealers should be working with a company like that. We think that guys are better off, if you're buying wiring cable, work with a wiring cable company. Not a speakers company who happens to be selling cable, or an electronics company who happens to be wrapping it into their product lineup. If you want to buy electronics, work with an electronics company. If you want to buy cable, work with a cable company. This is all we do, is live wiring cable 24/7. We don't sell mounts. We don't sell racks, anything like that. And we don't have to have the staff to support it. So I think that's really key for the dealers to be able to get the products that they need and the service that they need. And it flows through all the way. If the dealer is getting support that they need, the consumer is going to get the cable, the proper cable and installation that they need. And so it's key, actually, that the dealer chooses properly and then has that flow all the way through to the consumer. That's it for today. That's today's show. Thanks for joining us.